So what's love? And it's different at different stages of development. When we're first born, we are, of course, completely dependent on caregivers, parents, grown-ups that need to feed us, that need to hold us, that need to give us attention, change our diaper, etc. And so love as a child, when I think of I want to be loved, is need. And to love a child is to attend to and meet their needs, because a child is completely unable to do that for themselves. Now, as we grow up into adolescence, we have another stage of love, which is I want, I desire. You often have sexual love, as in I love you, meaning I'm attracted to you, I desire this experience with you. And so it shifts from need to I want. I need, that's love as a child. What do I have to do to get my needs met, to get attention? To I want, I desire. What do I have to do to fulfill my lust, to fulfill my curiosity? So the child and adolescent stages of love are all about me, and they should be. They're just the younger stages of love. Now, as we move into the young adult, we have exploration. I want to explore. I want to find my passion. I want to explore the world. I want to go out there and find something. And it's, again, you're starting to cross over into more awareness of others. But it isn't until we reach the adult stage of love where we actually turn our attention outward, when we've met enough of our needs, enough of our desires, enough of our curiosity about us. There's a fulfillment that occurs. And the adult is the first stage of love that is about the other. Not to get my needs met, not to get my desires fulfilled, but in order to give to another. Now, most of what we experience in relationships tends to relate to that first, second, and third level of love. I want you, you want me, so we'll have a romantic relationship. I need this, you need that, so our needs fit together. I'm curious about this thing, you're curious about that thing, and so we'll do it together. I want to explore China, you want to explore China. So we come together because our self-centered needs, preferences, desires overlap. And we can do more of it together. But if you don't meet my needs, if you don't fulfill my desires, if you're not happening to be a good travel companion on my adventure, then I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in me, and I'm interested in you to the extent that you help me pursue me. So it's all self-referential. The adult is the first psychological stage where it's about the other. Now, the adult is born out of the synthesis of the sympathy of the child, that's a yes to reality. I mean, an infant learns the language around them, they're yes to that. They learn the customs around them. They basically absorb the outer culture around them. The adolescent is moving into a place of rebellion and antithesis. You have sympathy, antithesis. I don't like this. I don't like that. That's unfair. That's not me. I don't like this. I reject my parents, my government's fucked up. There's a rejection of the outer environment as the child learns what's wrong with the system. And the adult is born in the space between that yes and that no. The yes of the child, the infant, the no of the adolescent. The infant, the child is a yes to everything. You're my parent. Okay, you're my parent. I'm a yes to what is. The adolescent, in its counter move, is a no to everything, or at least to a lot of things. And then the adult finds a new synthesis, sympathy, antipathy, synthesis. The adult finds a common ground of some things that I learned and developed in childhood. I like those things. Some things I learned and developed in childhood, I don't like those things. Some things about my culture I like. Some things about my culture I don't like. Some things about my parents I like. Some things I don't like. Some things about me I like. Some things I don't like. And there's a synergy of the yes and the no of these two polarities. And the adult first reaches out to meet the needs of the child, survival, security. The inner child still cannot meet their own needs. They require a discipline. They require an authority figure, and the adult is that authority figure to soothe and pamper the inner child, to make sure that life is run in a way that your needs are met, that your body is taken care of, to explore the world and serve the adolescent. You adolescent, you had all these dreams and ideas. How can I be of service to you, the inner adolescent, to help you meet those needs and to help the young adult explore their various interests on the inside? But through caring for these inner parts as an adult, we fill up. We meet those needs. We fulfill those desires. We explore those curiosities and find ourselves. But once we're filled up, there's an entire world out there that's not about us at all. And there's billions of other people who have needs and who have desires and who have curiosities. And so to love another human being comes from meeting our own needs, our need to survive, feel secure, experience love and belonging, develop self-esteem, to discover what our gifts are and bring them out into the world abundantly, to create value, and to become part of something bigger than ourselves. As we meet these needs in ourselves, it becomes more interesting naturally. Now, when we're insecure, when we're in scarcity, when we have unresolved trauma, the attention of the adult is appropriately inward to attend to those needs. But the successful adult, meaning that is caring for the inner self, naturally and organically, it's not a should, moves outward to love another. So what does it mean to love another human being? It begins with loving enough to care about you. And that's not just an abstract thing. It's caring enough to take time. It takes a certain amount of time to love someone. And it's not just taking enough time, it's taking enough time to see, for the purpose of seeing another person. You cannot love someone before you see them. You're in love with a projection, with an imagination, with a fantasy until you see them. And it takes a certain amount of time to see someone mentally, emotionally, physically, financially, logistically. I love you enough to care. I care enough to take time. I take enough time to see you. But it's not just seeing. Seeing is, you walk here, you do this, you think this, you say that, you've said you felt this, I see you do this, you bought this. I see you, but I don't yet understand you. So it's seeing enough to understand you. Well, the word understand kind of refers to standing under, and this refers to the reality of perspective, that to understand someone, you have to see the world through a point of view that they see the world through. So to see enough to understand, to relate to what it's like. Why are they so afraid of cars? Oh, I see. I see you enough to understand. Your brother died in a car accident. Your parents are dangerous drivers. So you're scared of, I see that you're scared, but now I understand it. I understand, like, gee, if I had lost a brother in a car accident, if my parents were always scaring me, I'd be scared of driving too. So now the sight deepens into understanding. So I understand you. You do this because of this, this, and this. But, we're different. Big deal. It's understanding enough to empathize. If you just understand someone, a sociopath can understand someone. This is how they tick. They do this and this and this because of this, this, and this. Therefore, I can predict their behavior, and I can exploit it to my benefit. I understand what you'll do if I do this, and so I'm going to do this to throw you off balance. I understand you, but I don't empathize with you. Understanding enough to empathize is being patient with that understanding, slowing it down to a point where there are feelings, where it's not just that I understand that you don't like driving because this, this, and this, but I notice how that is in your body. I watch how scared your face gets when we're driving around a curve. I empathize. I understand enough to empathize, to care about your feelings, your experience of the world as you see it. But it's not just caring. I care enough to change my behavior. I care enough to attune. In this case, to slow down. Because I understand you, because I took the time to see you, because I empathize with you, I actually modulate my behavior. I adjust my behavior to a point where you feel better. I empathize enough to attune, to adjust, to change my behavior. And it's not just attunement. I empathize enough to attune. I attune enough to succeed. It's like I slow down 10 miles an hour and I look over to you. Are you still scared? Maybe I slow down another 10 miles an hour. I look over to you. Are you still scared? Okay, now we've reached attunement. I've made adjustments that make you feel better. I attune enough to succeed. And it's not just succeeding at anything. we talked about feeling better. I attune enough to succeed at supporting and facilitating and enabling your fulfillment of your human needs. Your human need to survive. So in the traffic analogy there, where you were scared you wouldn't survive, and slowing down and driving safely so that you relax and feel safe, what? That you will survive your drive with me. When you've been traumatized with speed on the road, etc., your body says, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Something's going to happen to me. So when you attune and slow down to a point where you succeed at facilitating survival. Now there's a distinction between perceived survival and actual survival, but it's both. It's not just that you are safer and are going to survive, but we're doing that in such a way where you get that, where you understand, where you're included in the process, where you believe you're going to survive. And having attuned to the degree that you're now feeling safe and are going to survive. So, when someone is out on the street, they need food, they need shelter, etc. Loving enough to care, caring enough to see, seeing enough to understand, understanding enough to empathize, empathizing enough to attune, attuning enough to succeed at facilitating another human being's survival, giving them a sleeping bag, a place to stay, a hot meal, antibiotic injection if they're suffering from some virus, to succeed. And succeeding enough to survive, to feel secure in that survival, so that the way that I'm behaving supports you in feeling more and more secure that you will survive. And once you feel secure in that survival, it's behaving in such a way that you experience love and belonging. And that's a big continuum, because maybe you feel like, I love your successful and witty part, but 3 months out of the year you are depressed. And maybe you feel like, I don't love you when you're depressed. I don't understand you when you're depressed. I don't see you. I don't take time. I don't attune to you. I don't show up. So you feel a sense of love and belonging 9 months of the year, but 3 months of the year you do not feel loved. You do not feel like you belong. You feel like you're unwanted. So to love that person is to love them where they're at, so that when they're in that depressed place, they feel loved and that they belong, that they're welcome. And that the attunement at that point is attuning to succeed at making the depressed part feel welcome, and also, since most people don't enjoy being depressed, attuning in a way that heals some of that depression, some of that loneliness, some of that exhaustion. If you make someone a cup of tea and sit by their side, hold their hand, and their depression lifts 50%, that's being loving. Because being loving as an adult is not about you. Being loving as a child is, I need this. How are you going to meet my needs? You're depressed. You can't meet my needs. I need someone to cheer me up. And you're depressed, so I'm disposing of you. And someone else will meet my need because it's all about me. So as a child, it's about me. As an adolescent, it's about me. As a young adult, it's about me. But to love someone, first of all, the adult is the first stage of development capable of doing that, to actually genuinely be interested in caring for another human being just to care for another human being, because you enjoy watching their well-being blossom. You enjoy lifting their depression 50%. You enjoy helping them develop self-esteem. What do you value? Who do you want to be? What's stopping you being that way? How could I help? How could we engage so that you can be the person you want to be? Taking the time to understand that, to empathize with that, to attune to that, so that around you, they get to be the person they want to be. Then, what are your gifts? What are you good at? You don't know. Well, let's find out. Let's do some tests. Let's read a book. Here's a book, Strength Finder 2.0. What are your strengths? Now, which of those strengths do you think you might enjoy exploring and developing? Do you like this part of yourself? Do you like this part? Seems like you're good at this, 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 and this. Which part would you like to develop? And how could we engage in a way that you get better at that? If you're just starting out, do I give you a scholarship to study that strength? Do I invite you over to a friend's house who's already good at that strength so that you can learn from them? Do I share a book with you that helps you learn about your strength? Now, not everyone loves themselves. And not everyone wants to love themselves. There's still many people in very confused, abused, and abusive templates of relating that they want to die. So they're not interested in being, surviving and feel secure, or they're busy trying to prove what a schmuck they are. And so they don't, I'm not good at anything. I don't want to practice anything. I'm not going to. And so, people are not always lovable in a technical sense, in terms of get away from me, I don't want you to help me learn this. But if someone is willing to be loved, what does it look like to love them? To be loving towards them so that they become the best version of themselves, which is what makes everyone feel the best. Everyone feels great when they are the best version of themselves that they define. They may not feel great hearing that this is my vision for you, and I don't care what you think, but my vision for you is this. I think you'd be great at this. I want you to do this. Be the best version of that. That's not being loving. But what are your strengths? How do you see those strengths? And how can I support you to develop those strengths? Now, as they develop those strengths in whatever tangible or intangible way that we support them in doing that, they feel loved. They get that you're modulating your behavior, etc., in a way to be in service to them. And this is, of course, what parents are, what competent parents do. They've met their own needs before having a child. They want to participate in helping a consciousness, a new human being, survive, feel secure, develop a sense of love and belonging, develop values and ideals and live up to them, discover what they're good at, learn what they're good at, bring them out into the world. That's the next step. You've mastered pottery, you've mastered this, you're really good at this. How do you want to bring those out into the world? Because whatever human being wants that's healthy is to see the way they bring their gifts out into the world to touch other people in a way that brings well-being to them. A healthy human being finds few things more satisfying than to be good at something, to be seen as good as something, to be valued in being good at something, and to use that gift to bring well-being to another person, to another group, to another company, to be used well in that, and to create abundance for oneself and for another. To learn how to sign a contract if you're becoming an entrepreneur, to learn how to calculate your profit and loss so it creates abundance for the other person and abundance for me, so that I'm now sustainable, meaning that I generate so much value and I capture enough of that value that I can pay off all my debts, I can pay my taxes, and I can invest in my future. And once I'm covered, and once we support another person to the point where they're self-reliant, where they've brought their gift out into the world, they're generating value, then it's to become part of something bigger than themselves. Like, what do you dream? What's your legacy? What do you dream about doing for other people in the world? Well, I'd love to help animals. I've always loved polar bears. I'd love to do something, make a contribution to an Arctic wildlife fund, or learn this, or I want to volunteer to help the homeless in my community. Whatever it is that they value, that's bigger than them, their church, their environment, their family, their country, something bigger than them. It's part of feeling fulfilled as a human being to connect the isolated individual back into the ecology that gives birth to them. There is no isolated individual. It took millions and millions and millions of generations of parents to get here. If they didn't exist, we didn't exist. It took the planet for all of them to exist. It took the culture to develop the language. We're part of many, many systems, many ecologies that are bigger than us. And once we fulfill our own inner needs, the need and desire is to go out there and to become part of something that's bigger than ourselves. So asking people those questions when they've reached that point of abundance, because when you're trying to discover and meet your needs for love and belonging, and people are telling you to do good work in the world, it's more of a burden. You're not at that stage yet. But once you've brought your talent into the world and created a sense of abundance, it's fulfilling, it's satisfying to complete the meeting of our human needs, to become part of something bigger than ourselves. So to help someone else do that. Now, if you will do this first for yourself, love enough to care, care enough to see enough to understand enough to empathize enough to attune enough to succeed at meeting our own need to survive, feel secure, love and belonging, self-esteem, develop and discover our gifts, bring them out into the world, and then become part of something bigger than ourselves, we will feel loved by ourselves. And having felt a deep sense of love by ourselves, it is completely organic and natural to start turning the attention outward and enjoy caring about another person enough to go through that same process until they realize the best version of themselves. And when they do, and if we are successful, and it's a joint venture, many people are cross-wired. For example, the cult shames us and says if you depend on someone else, you're weak. And if you're weak, you're bad. And so you try and help certain people, and they say, no, I'm not weak, to get away. But someone who is lovable, meaning they're willing to be loved, when you help them go through that process, whether that's your child or your partner or a good friend or a mentoring relationship in your community, it's not about lust. It's not about what I need. It's not about my curiosity. It's being loving. When we play a role, when we love well, and someone else becomes their best version of themselves and is supported each step of the way by another human being whose greatest joy is seeing that growth, they feel loved. They feel seen. They feel understood. They feel cared about. They feel respected. And the natural feeling is gratitude, pleasure, safety, trust, vulnerability. That's the natural byproduct. And the love then is reciprocated because it feels great. And now they are an adult because they are incapable of loving. If they're dealing with survival, they can't be transcendent and worried about the larger system. They can't even appreciate the gift of your love when they're focused on meeting their own needs. But as they move through the whole process and graduate out of that process and actually experience abundantly being their best self, and notice you've been with them all around, they are now in a position to love. They're now an adult. And very, very organically and naturally, they feel a sense of connection, a shared sense of connection and trust, which is that feeling of adult love.